Welcome to our deep dive into the world of psychiatry.
Okay.
Today we're going to be exploring Advances in Psychiatry Volume 2.
Right.
This publication from the World Psychiatric Association, it's like a treasure chest
Mm-hmm.
filled with the most intriguing developments from the past few years. Think of it as a shortcut to understanding
Yeah.
the latest breakthroughs and challenges from 32 different scientific sections.
You're in for quite a ride, I'll tell you.
It's way more diverse than I expected.
Yeah.
It's not just about new medications or therapies. This deep dive seems to be about so much more than that.
Mm.
What exactly is the purpose of these Advances in Psychiatry publications?
These volumes act as snapshots capturing the most significant developments
Okay.
from each of the WPA's scientific sections.
Okay.
These sections aren't just publishing research. They're creating educational programs, organizing conferences, and even producing entire books on specific areas of psychiatry. They do it all.
So it's like a greatest hits compilation
Yeah.
from leading minds in the field. Okay, let's jump into it. What are some of the most compelling themes that emerge from this collection?
Well, one of the most prominent themes you'll notice is the evolving landscape of psychiatric diagnosis.
Okay.
There's a lot of debate surrounding current models like the ICD-10 and DSM-IV.
Right.
While these have served as important tools and concerns are being raised about their complexity for clinicians, there are limitations in capturing the nuances of mental illness across diverse cultures,
Yeah.
and a lack of clear connection with biological findings.
With so many limitations being highlighted, how can we ensure that diagnostic models keep pace with evolving understandings of mental illness?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. The WPA,
Right.
along with organizations like the WHO and the APA,
Okay.
are actively exploring new ways to classify mental disorders. One promising avenue is the dimensional approach. Instead of just ticking a box for, yes, you have this disorder, or no, you don't,
Right.
this approach views mental health on a spectrum. Imagine a scale of severity,
Right.
rather than a simple yes or no.
That makes a lot of sense. It seems like it would allow for a much more personalized understanding of each person's experience.
Exactly.
I can already see how this deep dive is going to change how I view mental health. Now, I'm eager to learn more about the research on schizophrenia. The sheer volume of papers dedicated to this topic was impressive.
Oh, yeah. Schizophrenia research is truly a hotbed of activity right now, and there's a great deal of discussion about its underlying causes. One of the big questions is whether schizophrenia is solely a developmental issue,
Right.
something that goes wrong during brain development,
Okay.
or whether a neurodegenerative process occurs after the onset of psychosis.
So the age-old question of nature versus nurture is still very much alive. What's the current thinking on how each contributes to schizophrenia development, and what does that mean for treatment approaches?
Well, researchers are still unraveling those complexities.
Yeah.
But what's exciting is the emergence of new treatment approaches that go beyond medication. For example, cognitive enhancement therapy, or CET, focuses on improving cognitive skills like memory and attention, which are often impaired in individuals with schizophrenia.
Okay.
At the same time, supportive therapy, or ST,
Yeah.
helps individuals navigate the practical challenges of daily life and improve their overall functioning.
So instead of just treating symptoms with medication,
Right?
the latest research suggests that a combined approach tackling both the cognitive and social aspects of schizophrenia is more effective.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
What about early intervention? Is there any research on identifying and treating individuals in the early stages of the disorder?
Oh, yeah. Early intervention is indeed a major focus in the field.
Okay.
Some studies are exploring the use of low-dose risperidone and cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, during the prodromal phase.
Okay.
The period before full-blown psychosis develops, public awareness programs like Open the Doors are also working to reduce stigma and encourage people to seek help sooner.
It's all about creating a culture where people feel comfortable seeking help for mental health concerns without shame or fear of judgment. Speaking of biological underpinnings, the research on eating disorders also caught my eye. I've personally seen how devastating these conditions can be.
Oh, they are indeed incredibly challenging conditions. One area of intense research is the genetic basis of eating disorders,
Okay.
particularly genes related to the neurotransmitter serotonin.
Right.
Think of receptors as little docking stations in the brain,
Oh.
and transporters as the delivery trucks for brain chemicals like serotonin. What studies are showing
Right.
is that in both anorexia and bulimia,
Okay.
there seem to be disruptions in how serotonin is being delivered and received in the brain.
That's a powerful image. It makes the biological aspect of these disorders much easier to understand. Are there any other biological factors being explored in eating disorder research?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Neuroimaging studies using techniques like SPECT and fMRI
Right.
are allowing researchers to see what's happening in the brain in real time.
Cool.
These studies have revealed alterations in brain activity, particularly in the temporal, parietal, and cingulate cortex, areas involved in emotional regulation, body image perception, and decision-making.
Yeah.
This is providing us with a window into the neural wiring of eating disorders and how they might be influencing thoughts and feelings.
This focus on understanding the biological underpinnings of mental health conditions extends even to how we approach care for cancer patients.
Yeah.
It's a topic that's often overlooked, but incredibly important.
You're right. Having cancer can be deeply distressing. Thankfully, there's a growing movement towards a more holistic approach to cancer care,
Okay.
recognizing the profound psychological impact of diagnosis and treatment.
Right.
One key aspect is training physicians in effective communication skills,
Okay.
empowering them to understand and address their patients' psychosocial needs with empathy and clarity.
It's about recognizing that healing goes beyond just treating the physical disease. Providing emotional and mental support is absolutely crucial.
Exactly. And there's strong evidence supporting the use of psychosocial interventions,
Okay.
which might include educational programs to help patients understand their illness and treatment options,
Right.
coping skills training to manage stress and anxiety, or even emotional support groups where they can connect with others going through similar experiences.
I'm noticing a trend here. A move towards a more comprehensive and multifaceted approach to mental health care.
Exactly.
It's not just about treating symptoms,
Right.
but about understanding the whole person and addressing all the factors that contribute to their well-being. Now, I'm curious about the research on personality disorders. It feels like those diagnoses are often surrounded by controversy.
You're right. There's a lot of debate about how we categorize and treat personality disorders.
Right.
One of the concerns raised in this volume is the limitations of the current categorical system.
Okay.
The you either have it or you don't approach doesn't always capture the nuances of these conditions.
Okay.
As a result, many researchers are advocating for a shift towards dimensional models.
Instead of fitting people into neat categories,
Right.
a dimensional approach would look at personality traits on a spectrum. That makes a lot of sense. How could this approach change the way we understand and treat personality disorders?
Well, a dimensional approach could offer several advantages.
Okay.
It could provide a deeper understanding of the causes of personality disorders,
Right.
improve assessment methods, and lead to more personalized treatment strategies. It's a fascinating area of ongoing research.
Before we get too deep into any more complex topics,
Yeah.
let's shift gears and talk about something I think we can all relate to: tobacco dependence. It's a global challenge that affects people from all walks of life.
You're absolutely right. Tobacco use is a major preventable cause of illness and death worldwide.
Yeah.
And it's not just a physical action. There's a strong gestural component,
Okay.
the ingrained habit of smoking, and a psychological aspect tied to mood regulation and the feeling of pleasure associated with nicotine.
It sounds incredibly difficult to overcome. What are the latest developments in helping people quit smoking?
Well, while there's no magic bullet,
Right.
effective cessation strategies typically involve a multifaceted approach.
Good.
This might include behavioral modification techniques,
Right.
such as identifying triggers and developing coping mechanisms,
Okay.
combined with nicotine replacement therapy to manage those difficult withdrawal symptoms.
So it's about breaking the cycle of dependence, both physically and mentally. What about medications? Are there any promising pharmacological interventions that can help with cravings and withdrawal?
Yes, in some cases, medications can be a valuable tool in the quitting process,
Okay.
but it's important to remember that medication is just one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
A comprehensive approach that addresses the behavioral and psychological aspects of addiction is crucial for long-term success.
The WPA is actually actively involved in developing programs to train healthcare professionals on the most effective tobacco dependence treatments. That's great to hear. It's like equipping healthcare providers to be anti-smoking advocates, giving them the knowledge and skills to help their patients kick the habit for good.
Now, another theme woven throughout many of these papers is the ongoing battle against stigma and discrimination in mental health.
Stigma is such a pervasive problem.
It is.
It prevents people from seeking help and perpetuates harmful stereotypes. What are some of the strategies being used to combat this issue?
Well, there are several promising approaches being implemented.
Okay.
Public education campaigns aim to raise awareness and challenge misconceptions about mental illness.
Right.
Programs encouraging interaction between individuals with mental illness and the broader community help break down barriers and foster understanding.
Right.
Advocacy for policy changes and legal protections against discrimination ensures everyone has a fair chance to thrive.
It's about creating a more inclusive and compassionate society where mental illness is treated with the same understanding and respect as any other health condition. I noticed the Advances in Psychiatry volume also focuses on the importance of measuring outcomes in mental health. Can you tell us more about that?
It's about moving beyond just symptom reduction and looking at the broader impact of treatment on a person's life.
Okay.
One example is the Client's Lived Experience of Illness instrument, or COI,
Right.
which assesses how mental illness affects an individual's relationships, work, and overall well-being.
It sounds like a much more holistic approach to measuring progress, taking into account the individual's lived experience and focusing on how they're functioning in their day-to-day life.
Exactly. And the COLI can be used to track changes over time,
Okay.
allowing clinicians to see how treatment impacts a person's quality of life. Another interesting instrument mentioned is the social rituals interview, which explores changes in social behavior.
Social rituals. What exactly do those have to do with mental health?
Even seemingly mundane interactions.
Like greeting someone or participating in conversations
Right.
can reveal a lot about our mental state.
Okay.
For example, withdrawing from social events or having trouble engaging in conversation could be early signs of mental health decline.
It's like those subtle changes in our social interactions could be a signal that something deeper is going on. That's really insightful. Now, I'm curious about the latest developments in drug development. It's an area that's always evolving.
It is indeed. One of the challenges researchers face is the rising placebo response in clinical trials.
Oh.
This means that more people in the placebo group are experiencing improvements, making it harder to demonstrate the effectiveness of the actual drug.
So the power of suggestion is becoming even more influential.
Yeah.
What are researchers doing to overcome this challenge?
Animal and human models are being used to study specific disorders and test new treatments in controlled settings.
Okay.
For example, researchers might use scopolamine to induce cognitive symptoms similar to those in Alzheimer's disease.
Allowing them to test the efficacy of new drugs. Similar models exist for panic attacks using a substance called CCK4,
Okay.
and for schizophrenia using ketamine.
Wow. Researchers are getting really creative in their pursuit of new treatments.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about child and adolescent psychiatry. Early intervention in this age group is critical,
Yeah.
as it can have a significant impact on a child's future. What are some of the key insights from the research in this area?
Longitudinal studies like the Christchurch study, which follows individuals over many years, are providing valuable data on the development of mental health conditions.
Okay.
These studies have identified risk factors such as childhood adversity, exposure to domestic violence, and a family history of mental illness.
Right.
That can increase the likelihood of developing mental health problems later in life.
Our early experiences really can shape our mental health trajectory, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
It seems like the key takeaway here is that providing support and early intervention for children facing these challenges is crucial.
Absolutely. Catching problems early on can make a world of difference. Additionally, neuroimaging studies are revealing brain differences in various childhood disorders,
Okay.
though more research is needed to understand their full implications.
So we're beginning to uncover the neural underpinnings of childhood mental health conditions, which could lead to new and improved treatments. Now, speaking of brain imaging, that also plays a role in research on eating disorders. Is that correct?
You're absolutely right. Those same neuroimaging techniques like MRI
Okay.
are being used to explore the brains of children and adolescents with a variety of conditions.
Oh.
While we're still in the early stages of understanding the significance of these brain differences,
Right.
it's an exciting area of research that holds a lot of promise for the future of mental health care.
This is all so fascinating. It's like we're peeking behind the curtain and starting to see the intricate workings of the brain and how they relate to mental health. Now, let's move on to an area that's gaining much needed attention: women's mental health. Women face unique challenges and considerations when it comes to mental health. And this volume explores some of the latest research on this topic.
Great.
Of particular interest is the role of hormones, especially estrogen, in women's mental health throughout their lives.
Right.
Hormonal fluctuations during menstruation, pregnancy, menopause, and other life stages can have a significant impact on a woman's emotional well-being, right?
Yeah.
It seems us researchers are finally starting to recognize the importance of understanding this complex interplay of hormones in mental health. What are some of the specific areas of focus in this research?
One area of focus is understanding how hormonal shifts might contribute to conditions like depression, anxiety, and even psychosis.
Okay.
There's also promising research on the use of estrogen to treat perimenopausal depression, with some studies suggesting that transdermal estradiol, delivered through a skin patch,
Right.
can effectively reduce depressive symptoms in women going through menopause.
So it's about replenishing the estrogen that the body may not be producing as efficiently. I also read about research exploring estrogen as a supplemental treatment for women who are already taking antidepressants but aren't experiencing full relief. It's incredible to see how this research is opening up new possibilities for personalized treatment approaches.
Absolutely. Now, while we're on the topic of specific populations, older adults also require specialized attention when it comes to mental health care.
Older adults represent a rapidly growing segment of the population.
Yes.
And their mental health needs often differ from those of younger generations.
Yeah.
What are some of the unique challenges they face?
This volume highlights a concerning trend. Despite the growing need for specialized care for older adults,
Okay.
the teaching of old-age psychiatry remains neglected in many parts of the world.
Really?
This means there's a shortage of professionals equipped to handle the complex interplay of physical health conditions,
Right.
cognitive changes,
Mm-hmm.
social isolation, and loss that can impact mental well-being in later life.
It sounds like a perfect storm of factors that can make it difficult to maintain good mental health as we age.
Yeah.
What's being done to address this gap in care?
The WPA and WHO are collaborating to develop a specialized curriculum and establish competency standards for professionals working with older adults.
Okay.
This curriculum would cover everything from the diagnosis and treatment of common mental health conditions in this age group
Right.
to the ethical and legal considerations that come with caring for a vulnerable population.
It's about providing healthcare professionals with the tools and knowledge to deliver compassionate and effective care for older adults,
Right.
ensuring their mental health needs are met. This brings us to another crucial aspect of mental health, the role of the family name. Family dynamics can have a profound influence on mental well-being, both positive and negative.
You're absolutely right. This volume delves into the complexities of family research and intervention,
Okay.
especially in the context of conditions like alcoholism and other mental health challenges. One area of research focuses on the interplay of genetic and environmental factors that contribute to alcohol addiction.
Right.
Some studies suggest that personality traits like impulsivity,
Well,
a tendency towards risk-taking behavior, and a family history of alcoholism can increase a person's vulnerability to developing the condition.
it's like a combination of nature and nurture that can create a predisposition towards alcohol addiction. What about the impact of mental illness on the family unit as a whole? I can imagine it can put a tremendous strain on relationships and create significant burdens for family members.
You're absolutely right. The emotional, physical, and financial burdens on family caregivers are immense.
Yeah.
And there's a growing recognition of the need to provide them with more support.
Okay.
This includes services like respite care, counseling, support groups, and education about mental illness and available resources.
It's about recognizing that family members are often on the front lines of mental health care and need guidance and support to navigate this difficult journey. This deep dive is revealing just how interconnected mental health is with all aspects of our lives, from our families and communities to our work and environment. It's all connected.
It truly is. And one of the most exciting frontiers in psychiatry is the exploration of the biological underpinnings of mental illness.
Yeah.
The advancements in our understanding are truly remarkable.
I'm always fascinated by research on the brain and how it relates to mental health, even if it can get quite complex. What are some of the paradigm shifts happening in this area?
One significant shift is moving away from the idea that mental illness is caused by a single gene or neurotransmitter imbalance.
Right.
Researchers are recognizing the complexity of these conditions,
Okay.
understanding that they arise from a dynamic interplay of genetic, environmental, and developmental factors.
It's that age-old nature versus nurture debate, but with a much more nuanced understanding of how these forces interact.
Exactly. And another key shift is recognizing the brain's incredible plasticity.
Okay.
Its ability to change and adapt throughout life.
Right.
Even if someone has a genetic predisposition to a mental illness, their brain can still be shaped and molded through therapy, medication, and lifestyle changes.
That's a message of hope. suggesting that we're not just prisoners of our biology. Neuroimaging techniques like MRI and PET scans are giving us unprecedented insights into the brain's workings.
Indeed. These tools are confirming some long-held theories about mental illness.
Oh.
For example, studies on schizophrenia are providing support for the dopamine hypothesis,
Right.
which suggests that an overactivity of dopamine in certain brain regions plays a role in the disorder's development.
Okay.
We're also uncovering structural and functional changes in the brain associated with different mental illnesses,
Okay.
providing a visual representation of how mental illness can manifest physically in the brain.
It's incredible to think we can now see the physical footprints of mental illness in the brain. The advancements in biological psychiatry are truly mind-blowing.
We're just scratching the surface. The genomics revolution, with its ability to identify specific genes that might contribute to mental illness,
Right.
holds immense promise for developing even more targeted and personalized treatments in the future. Imagine a world where your treatment plan is customized based on your unique genetic makeup.
Right.
That's the power of the genomics revolution.
It's like the future of medicine is unfolding right before our eyes. I'm starting to understand why you said this deep dive would be quite a ride. It's a roller coaster of information, and I'm eager to see what other twists and turns are in store for us.
Okay, well, hold on tight because we're about to delve into the critical importance of collaboration in addressing the complexities of mental health.
Collaboration. So we're not just talking about psychiatrists working in isolation.
Exactly. The authors of this volume stress that tackling the multifaceted challenges of mental health requires a team approach,
Okay.
bringing together diverse perspectives and expertise from various fields:
Is that-
psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, nurses, economists, and policymakers all have a crucial role to play.
It's an all-hands-on-deck approach, recognizing that mental health is influenced by a wide range of factors, from biology and psychology to social circumstances and economic policies.
What are some examples of these interdisciplinary collaborations?
One example is the growing field of mental health economics,
Okay.
which explores the financial burden of mental illness and the cost-effectiveness of different treatment approaches.
Right.
This research can be instrumental in shaping policy decisions and advocating for increased funding for mental health services.
So it's not just about providing care,
Right?
but also about ensuring that care is accessible and affordable for everyone. Mental health economics provides the data and evidence to make a compelling case for investing in mental health care, both on moral and economic grounds.
Precisely. Another area where collaboration is crucial is between psychiatrists and other healthcare professionals, like primary care physicians.
Okay.
They are often the first point of contact for people experiencing mental health issues.
Right. And need to be equipped to recognize these problems,
Yeah.
provide initial support, and refer patients to specialists when necessary.
It's about creating a seamless continuum of care, ensuring that people receive the right help at the right time. This volume also delves into the psychological impact of torture and persecution, a sobering reminder of the suffering that exists in our world.
You're right, it's a heavy topic.
Yeah.
The WPA has a dedicated section that focuses on advocating for the protection of torture survivors,
Okay.
particularly those in exile,
Right.
and raising awareness about the political abuse of psychiatry,
Right.
where mental health diagnoses and treatments are used as tools of control or punishment.
It's horrifying to think such practices occur, but shedding light on these issues is the first step towards creating change. What is being done to help survivors of torture and persecution?
The WPA has developed guidelines for assessing, diagnosing, and treating survivors of torture, providing a roadmap for healing and recovery from these unimaginable experiences. Another challenging topic addressed in this volume is the impact of conflict and war on mental health.
Sadly, conflict and war are realities in many parts of the world, and the mental health toll is immense. What are some of the specific challenges faced in these settings?
Conflict and post-conflict settings often lead to a surge in mental health problems, including post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, and substance abuse.
Right.
Factors like poverty, family displacement,
Right.
and the destruction of health infrastructure further exacerbate mental health issues,
Okay.
making recovery and rebuilding incredibly difficult.
It's like a mental health crisis on top of a humanitarian crisis.
You could say that, fortunately, the WHO is actively working to address these needs by training local healthcare workers,
Okay.
providing psychological first aid,
Right.
and developing culturally sensitive mental health programs tailored to the unique needs of conflict-affected communities.
It's about meeting people where they are and providing support that respects their cultural context and lived experiences. This volume also delves into forensic psychiatry, an area that's always intrigued me. Can you tell us more about what it involves?
Forensic psychiatry sits at the intersection of mental health and the legal system.
Okay.
It involves assessing the mental state of individuals involved in legal proceedings,
Right.
determining their fitness to stand trial, and making recommendations for treatment and management.
So forensic psychiatrists play a crucial role in ensuring that the justice system considers the mental health of those involved.
Exactly. And this volume highlights the growing focus on risk assessment and management of violence,
Okay.
using a combination of clinical judgment and standardized tools to assess the likelihood of future violent behavior.
It's a complex and challenging task, but one that's vital for balancing public safety with the rights of individuals with mental illness.
Speaking of evolving fields, this volume also addresses the latest trends and challenges in psychiatric education.
It sounds like there are some significant changes happening in how we train the next generation of mental health professionals.
One trend is the integration of mental health training earlier in medical school curricula.
Okay.
The goal is to expose future doctors to mental health concepts and patients early on,
Okay.
fostering a more holistic view of medicine and breaking down silos between different specialties.
That makes a lot of sense. Integrating mental health into medical training from the start will help create a more well-rounded and compassionate healthcare workforce.
Absolutely.
But there are concerns about the lack of positive role models and skilled tutors in psychiatric education.
Oh.
Without adequate mentorship and guidance, medical students may internalize negative attitudes towards psychiatry,
Right.
which could perpetuate stigma and discourage them from pursuing this field. This highlights the need for passionate and experienced mentors who can inspire and guide future psychiatrists.
It's like any profession. Having strong role models and mentors can make all the difference. Precisely. And this volume emphasizes the importance of extending psychiatric education beyond medical professionals.
Okay.
Public awareness campaigns,
Right.
mental health literacy programs,
Yeah.
and the development of self-management tools for individuals with mental illness are all essential components of a comprehensive approach to mental health care.
Empowering individuals to take an active role in their mental health journey is crucial. This type of education can help reduce stigma, encourage early help seeking, and ultimately lead to better outcomes.
Now, before we move on,
Yeah.
I have to ask about those papers on the personality traits of future psychiatrists.
Right.
Is there really such a thing as a psychiatrist personality?
That's a question that has fascinated people for a long time.
Uh-huh.
This volume highlights a study comparing the personality traits of psychiatric trainees to those of trainees in internal medicine. Interestingly, the study found that psychiatric trainees didn't necessarily exhibit more psychopathology compared to other medical trainees. So the stereotype of the troubled psychiatrist isn't necessarily accurate. That's reassuring to hear. Were there any notable differences in personality traits between the two groups?
Yes, there were some subtle but interesting differences. Psychiatric trainees tended to be more extroverted and agreeable compared to internal medicine trainees.
That makes sense, given that psychiatric practice involves so much interpersonal interaction and relationship building with patients.
Exactly. Internal medicine trainees, on the other hand, scored higher on a trait called psychoticism.
Psychoticism, that sounds a bit alarming.
It does, but it's important to understand that this doesn't necessarily mean someone is psychotic. In this context, psychoticism refers to a cluster of personality characteristics that include impulsivity, a lack of cooperation, and a tendency towards rigid thinking.
So perhaps internal medicine trainees are a bit more independent, less conventional, and more willing to challenge the status quo.
You could say that it's important to remember that these are broad generalizations, and there's a lot of individual variation within both groups. But these findings do suggest that certain personality traits might make someone more drawn to one specialty over another.
It's like finding your tribe within the vast world of medicine.
Exactly. And the study's authors suggest assessing personality traits early in training.
Okay.
Not to exclude anyone, but to identify potential vulnerabilities and provide support for each trainee to thrive.
It's about giving them a roadmap of their strengths and weaknesses so they can maximize their potential and navigate any challenges they may encounter. Speaking of challenges, another important area covered in this volume is the economic dimension of mental health.
You're right. Mental health care doesn't come cheap.
It doesn't.
This volume highlights a growing body of research on the financial burden of mental illness and the cost-effectiveness of different treatment approaches.
It's about understanding the true scope of the problem, not just in terms of human suffering, but also in terms of economic impact. This information is crucial for advocating for adequate resources and policy changes to address mental health needs.
Exactly. One key finding is that mental illness represents a huge economic drain on societies worldwide. We're talking about lost productivity,
Right.
healthcare costs,
Mm-hmm.
disability benefits,
Yeah.
and all the indirect costs associated with mental illness.
It's like a ripple effect, with the impact extending far beyond the individual level. What does this research tell us about the most cost-effective treatment approaches?
One area where this research has been particularly influential is in demonstrating the cost-effectiveness of community-based care for individuals with severe mental illness. Remember those studies we discussed earlier about treating people in their communities rather than in institutions?
Yes, it seems like providing care within the community is more beneficial for the individual
Yeah.
and more economically sound for society as a whole.
Exactly. This kind of data is essential for making the case for increased investment in community mental health programs,
Right.
showing that it's not only the right thing to do, but also the smart thing to do.
It's about aligning ethical considerations with economic realities, demonstrating that investing in mental health care makes sense on both levels.
Precisely. Mental health economics also plays a role in evaluating the cost-effectiveness of different medications and therapies,
Right.
helping clinicians and policymakers make informed decisions about which treatments to prioritize. It's like a consumer guide for mental health care, helping us navigate the often overwhelming array of options and choose those that offer the best value.
This brings us to another important theme that runs through this volume, the connection between mental health and public health.
There's a growing understanding that mental health isn't just an individual issue,
Right.
but a public health concern influenced by social, economic, and environmental factors, poverty, discrimination, access to education, and even the quality of our physical environment all play a role in shaping our mental well-being.
So it's about moving beyond just treating individuals with mental illness and creating healthier communities that promote mental well-being for everyone.
Exactly. This involves a multifaceted approach, addressing poverty and social inequities,
Okay.
promoting social inclusion and support networks, ensuring access to quality education and healthcare,
Okay.
creating supportive and inclusive work environments,
Right.
fostering positive parenting practices and early childhood development programs,
There.
and tackling environmental issues like pollution and climate change.
Wow. That's quite a comprehensive list. It sounds like a paradigm shift in the way we think about and approach mental health.
It truly is. And it requires collaboration between various sectors, including government agencies, healthcare providers, educators, and community organizations. Everyone has a role to play in creating a mentally healthier society.
One area where this integration of mental health and public health is particularly relevant is in the workplace.
You're absolutely right. Work-related stress is a significant public health concern affecting employee well-being and productivity.
Yeah.
The European Union has developed guidelines for promoting mental well-being in the workplace, emphasizing a multifaceted approach.
What are some of the key recommendations from these guidelines?
They recommend fostering a positive work environment,
Okay.
promoting work-life balance,
Right.
providing opportunities for professional development and growth,
Mhm.
ensuring fair and equitable treatment of all employees,
Okay.
addressing workplace bullying and harassment,
Right.
and providing resources and support for employees experiencing mental health challenges.
It's about creating a work culture that values employee well-being and recognizes that a healthy workforce is a productive workforce.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Investing in employee mental health isn't just the right thing to do,
Right.
it's also good for business.
Now, let's delve into another fascinating topic, the complex relationship between transcultural psychiatry, religion, and spirituality.
Yeah.
How does culture influence mental health?
Culture shapes our beliefs, values, behaviors, and even our experiences of mental illness. What might be considered normal in one culture could be seen as a sign of mental illness in another.
So clinicians need to be aware of different cultural norms, beliefs, and communication styles when working with patients from diverse backgrounds.
Absolutely. Cultural sensitivity and humility are crucial.
Right.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach to mental health care.
This volume also explores the evolving role of religion and spirituality in mental health. For many people, these provide comfort, meaning, and support, especially during times of stress or crisis.
You're right. And there's growing research exploring the potential benefits of religious and spiritual practices for mental health.
Okay.
Some studies suggest they can reduce stress,
Right.
anxiety, and depression while promoting resilience and well-being.
Okay.
However, this volume cautions against oversimplifying the relationship between religion and mental health.
So it's not a simple equation where religion equals good mental health or lack of faith equals mental illness.
Exactly. Religion can be a source of distress or conflict for some,
Right.
especially if their beliefs clash with their experiences.
Yeah.
Or if they feel judged or ostracized by their religious community.
Right.
Clinicians need to approach these issues sensitively,
Okay.
respecting the patient's beliefs and recognizing the potential complexities.
It sounds like navigating these intersections requires ongoing training and education for mental health professionals to ensure they can address religious and spiritual issues effectively and ethically.
Absolutely. Now, let's move on to a slightly more unconventional topic. The use of art as a window into narcissism.
Art and narcissism. That's a fascinating combination.
Yeah.
I've always seen art as a form of self-expression, but I can see how it could also reveal something about the artist's personality.
You're right. This volume explores the study of art through a psychoanalytic lens,
Okay.
suggesting that the creative process can reflect an artist's inner world,
Okay.
particularly their narcissistic tendencies.
Narcissistic tendencies, meaning an inflated sense of self-importance, a need for admiration, and a lack of empathy.
Exactly. The author suggests that the creative process can be seen as a reconstruction of previously stored material, influenced by early experiences and unconscious conflicts.
So art becomes a way for artists to work through their psychological baggage, even if they aren't consciously aware of it.
Precisely. By analyzing the content, style, and themes of an artist's work,
Right.
we can gain insights into their personality and psychological makeup.
It's like using art as a tool for psychological detective work.
You could say that, for example, an artist with narcissistic tendencies might create highly idealized or exaggerated self-portraits,
Yeah.
reflecting their inflated sense of self-importance. They might depict themselves in grandiose or heroic poses, further emphasizing their sense of superiority,
Okay.
or portray others as subservient or insignificant.
It's like they're using art to create their own world where they are the star of the show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, another important concept explored in this volume is values-based practice in mental health.
Values-based practice, what does that entail?
It's an approach to clinical decision-making that emphasizes the importance of considering both evidence and values in patient care. It's not just about following the latest research or guidelines,
Right.
but also about taking into account the patient's individual beliefs,
Right.
preferences, and goals.
So it's about tailoring treatment to the individual, respecting their autonomy, and involving them in the decision-making process.
Precisely. This volume highlights some key skills involved in values-based practice,
Okay.
including awareness of one's own values and biases,
Right.
the ability to reason through ethical dilemmas,
Okay.
knowledge of different ethical frameworks and guidelines,
Okay.
and effective communication skills to engage in open and honest conversations with patients about their values and preferences.
It sounds like values-based practice requires a unique blend of clinical expertise, ethical awareness, and communication skills.
It does. But these skills can be developed over time with practice and guidance. The benefits for patients are significant
Okay.
as they feel heard, respected,
Right.
and empowered in their mental health journey. Now, remember those discussions we had earlier about the intersection of religion, spirituality, and psychiatry?
Yes. We talked about how religion and spirituality can be sources of both support and conflict for individuals with mental illness,
Right.
and how important it is for clinicians to approach these topics with sensitivity and respect.
Well, this volume delves even deeper into this complex area, highlighting the ethical and clinical challenges that arise.
It's fascinating how religion and spirituality can play such multifaceted roles in mental health. This volume really emphasizes the importance of navigating those intersections with sensitivity and nuance. Now, I'm curious about a topic that seems to be getting more attention these days: the impact of environmental factors on mental health. Is this something that's being explored in the Advances in Psychiatry publication?
Absolutely. The volume highlights the emerging field of ecological psychiatry, which examines the intricate connection between our environment and our mental well-being. It challenges the notion that we are solely biological beings and emphasizes our interconnectedness with the world around us.
So we're not just talking about nature versus nurture anymore, but also about how our surroundings impact our mental state. What are some of the specific environmental factors being studied?
Researchers are exploring a wide range of factors,
Right.
including air and water pollution,
Right.
exposure to toxins,
Yeah.
noise pollution, lack of access to green spaces,
Right.
climate change, and its associated anxieties,
Okay.
and even the design of our built environments. They're discovering that these factors can have a significant impact on mood,
Right.
stress levels,
Okay.
cognitive function, and even the development of mental health conditions.
It's a sobering reminder that our mental health is inextricably linked to the health of our planet. The volume also addresses the psychological impact of traumatic events, both natural and man-made.
Yes, those events can leave lasting scars on individuals and communities.
Yeah.
This volume highlights the need for specialized therapeutic approaches to help people recover from trauma,
Okay.
such as those that incorporate cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT,
Right.
eye movement desensitization and reprocessing or EMDR,
Okay.
and trauma-informed care principles.
So it's not just about treating the symptoms of PTSD,
Right.
anxiety, or depression,
Exactly.
but about addressing the root cause of the trauma and providing tools for processing and healing.
And it's also crucial to address the social and environmental factors that can hinder recovery,
Right.
such as poverty,
Yeah.
discrimination,
Mhm.
and lack of access to resources.
Mm.
Creating a more equitable and just society where everyone has the opportunity to thrive can play a significant role in fostering resilience and supporting trauma recovery.
Now, before we wrap up our exploration of advances in psychiatry,
Okay.
we have to talk about something that's become almost inescapable in our modern world: the mass media.
Ah, yes, the mass media. It's a powerful force that can shape our perceptions, beliefs, and behaviors.
Right. And its impact on mental health is undeniable.
I can definitely see how it can be a double-edged sword,
Yeah,
with both positive and negative influences on our mental well-being.
exactly. On the positive side, mass media can be a powerful tool for raising awareness about mental health issues,
Right.
reducing stigma, and promoting help-seeking behaviors,
Mm.
celebrity endorsements,
Right.
public service announcements,
Okay.
and documentaries have all played a role in destigmatizing mental illness and encouraging people to reach out for support.
And the internet and social media have created virtual communities where people can connect,
Yes.
share their stories,
Mhm.
and find support,
Right.
which can be incredibly valuable for those who might otherwise feel isolated.
You're absolutely right. But there's also a darker side to the mass media's influence.
Okay.
One concern is the pervasive nature of media violence and its potential to desensitize us to violence in real life.
I've definitely noticed how violence in movies,
Yeah.
TV shows, and video games has become more graphic and intense over the years. Is there a clear link between media violence and real-life aggression?
It's a complex issue.
Right.
And the research isn't entirely conclusive,
Okay.
but there's certainly concern that constant exposure to violence can desensitize us to its effects and make us less empathetic towards victims.
It's like our brains become numb to the suffering of others.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah.
Another concern is the unrealistic portrayal of beauty and body image in the media,
Right.
which can contribute to eating disorders,
Okay.
body dysmorphic disorder, and low self-esteem.
It's hard to escape those airbrushed models and perfectly sculpted bodies in magazines,
Yeah.
on TV, and across social media. It's no wonder so many people feel pressure to conform to these unrealistic standards.
You're right. It's a constant barrage of images that can distort our perceptions of what's normal and healthy. And this can be especially harmful to young people who are still developing their sense of self and body image.
The volume also touches on the rapid spread of information and misinformation through the media, which can fuel anxiety, fear, and panic.
Absolutely. We live in a world where we are constantly bombarded with news and information.
Right.
Much of it sensationalized or designed to provoke a strong emotional response.
Right.
This can be overwhelming, especially for people who are already struggling with anxiety or other mental health conditions.
It's like we're living in a perpetual state of information overload, constantly trying to process and filter the noise.
Exactly. And this can make it difficult to distinguish between real threats and perceived threats,
Right.
which can heighten anxiety and make it challenging to cope with everyday stressors.
So what can be done to mitigate the negative impacts of mass media on mental health?
That's where mental health professionals can play a crucial role. This volume emphasizes the importance of engaging with the media proactively and strategically, using it as a platform to educate the public,
Right.
promote positive portrayals of mental illness, and combat stigma.
So it's not about shying away from the media.
Right.
It's about leveraging its power to
Yeah.
create positive change.
Exactly. Mental health professionals can work with journalists,
Yeah.
filmmakers, and
Right.
other media producers to ensure that mental illness is portrayed accurately and sensitively, challenging harmful stereotypes and misconceptions.
They can also use media platforms to share evidence-based information about mental health,
Yeah, that's
advocate for policies that support mental well-being,
right.
and connect people with resources and support.
Absolutely. It's about reclaiming the narrative around mental health and using the power of the media to create a more informed,
Right.
compassionate, and supportive society.
Okay, so far this deep dive has been incredibly insightful, shedding light on the vast and ever-evolving world of psychiatry. I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed by the sheer amount of information we've covered, but also incredibly inspired by the progress being made in understanding and addressing mental health. Is there anything else you'd like to highlight before we wrap things up?
I think it's important to reiterate that this volume truly captures the essence of modern psychiatry,
Okay.
moving beyond the old reductionist models that focus solely on biological or psychological explanations. It embraces a much more holistic view, recognizing the complex interplay of factors that contribute to mental health.
So it's not just about fixing broken brains or changing faulty thinking patterns.
Exactly. It's about understanding the whole person within their unique social,
All right.
cultural, and environmental context. This holistic perspective has profound implications for both treatment and prevention.
So we're talking about a more integrated and comprehensive approach that addresses all aspects of a person's well-being.
Precisely. This might involve integrating conventional treatments like medication and therapy with lifestyle changes,
Right.
social support interventions, and
Right.
community-based programs. It's about empowering individuals to take an active role in their own mental health journey,
Right.
providing them with the tools and support they need to thrive.
And it's also about addressing the broader societal factors that contribute to mental illness, such as poverty, discrimination, and lack of access to education and healthcare.
You're absolutely right. Creating a more just and equitable society where everyone has the opportunity to reach their full potential is essential for improving mental well-being on a population level.
It sounds like the future of psychiatry is moving towards a more personalized,
Mm-hmm.
holistic,
Yeah.
and integrated approach,
Exactly.
which is incredibly exciting. This deep dive into advances in psychiatry has been a real eye-opener,
Uh-huh.
revealing the incredible breadth and depth of research and innovation happening in the field. Now, with all that we've learned, I'm curious to know if there are any specific takeaways or thought-provoking questions that you'd like to leave our listeners with.
That's a great question. As we conclude our exploration of advances in psychiatry, one question that comes to mind is this. With all these advancements and the growing understanding of mental health's complexities, how can we ensure that this knowledge is translated into real-world improvements in care and support for individuals and communities? It's a question that challenges us to consider not just the science of mental health, but also the ethics, the policies, and the systems that shape access to care and the overall well-being of society.
It's a powerful question, and one that I think we'll continue to grapple with as we move forward in this field. It's a reminder that knowledge is only as valuable as its ability to create positive change. I think that's a fantastic question to ponder as we move forward. It highlights the importance of bridging the gap between research and practice, ensuring that the latest scientific discoveries translate into tangible benefits for people's lives.
It's a challenge that requires collaboration not just among researchers and clinicians, but also with policymakers, advocates, and communities themselves. We need to work together to create systems and structures that support mental well-being at all levels.
This deep dive has certainly expanded my understanding of psychiatry. It's not just about treating mental illness, but about fostering mental well-being, promoting resilience,
Yes.
and creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
You've hit the nail on the head. This volume of advances in psychiatry showcases a field that is evolving rapidly,
Yeah.
embracing new perspectives,
Yeah.
and challenging old assumptions. It's an exciting time to be involved in mental health as we're witnessing a paradigm shift in the way we approach these complex issues.
Before we wrap up, are there any other thought-provoking insights from this collection that you'd like to share with our listeners?
One thing that struck me is the emphasis on the individual's lived experience. We're moving away from a purely diagnostic approach and recognizing that each person's journey with mental health is unique. Their experiences, perspectives, and values must be at the center of care.
It's about treating people, not just illnesses, and recognizing that recovery is a process that looks different for everyone.
Exactly. And this focus on individual experience aligns with the trend toward more personalized and holistic approaches to mental health care. We're seeing a shift away from one-size-fits-all solutions and recognizing the importance of tailoring treatment to each person's unique needs and circumstances.
This deep dive into advances in psychiatry has been a truly enlightening experience. It's opened my eyes to the vast scope of this field,
Uh-huh.
the incredible advancements being made,
Right.
and the challenges that still lie ahead. I feel both inspired and empowered by the knowledge we've gained.
It's been a pleasure sharing this journey with you. The progress being made in psychiatry is truly remarkable. With each new discovery and each new collaboration, we're moving closer to a world where mental health is understood, valued, and supported.
And for our listeners out there, I encourage you to continue exploring these topics. The World Psychiatric Association website is an excellent resource for staying up to date on the latest research and developments. And don't hesitate to reach out for support if you're struggling with a mental health issue. Remember, you're not alone. There are people who care,
Yes.
resources available,
Mhm.
and treatments that can make a difference.
Seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness.
Right.
And recovery is always possible.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of advances in psychiatry. We hope you've enjoyed the journey. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and take good care of your mental health.